peripheral vision and respond to them at high speed.
The peripheral visual field is where I detect motion, where I'm looking at objects that may become threats. If we look at those objects less, if we're perceiving the surrounding world less, there's obviously implications for safety.
Older drivers who have problems on the useful field of view test are more than twice as likely to be involved in an automobile accident in the next 5 years.
The contraction of the useful field of view impacts every aspect of mobility as we age.
If you can think back to when you were 16 and you got your driver's license, and the very first time you went out in the car by yourself and how free you felt, for maybe the first time in your life, and that independence you felt. And we carry that with us, regardless if we remember that or not. And often when an older person is faced with the possibility of having to not drive, we're taking away that freedom, that independence.
Useful field of view is not just about mobility and independence. Maintaining it is also critical to remaining connected to the world.
Like quickly interpreting the social scene in front of you so that you're socially adept and don't become a social fossil. It's about quickly interpreting the things in your medicine cabinet so that you know what goes with what on the basis of critical information that's coming to you from your vision and reconstructing those things and their relationships. It's in a million things that require active vision, that require that you really quickly and efficiently sample the information in front of you and you really see the world more completely, more holistically, and you don't have half of the world go by unseen.
Our vision is so critical to our daily activities that most people feel that they would be aware of any significant changes or restrictions in their vision. But the signal degrades over time so that loss occurs gradually in subtle ways.
We think if we are losing our vision, if we're going blind, we would know that. But the way our brains work, which is really cool actually, is that we have a natural blind spot that we never notice because our brain fills in all of the information that's missing in our blind spot. So we don't notice that the blind spot is there in our everyday life. So what can actually happen is you can lose your vision, but your brain continues to fill in the information for you, and you don't notice those losses.
These changes sneak up on you. And in part, they're hidden from you because operationally you're still in there because you're so good at operating these abstracted levels in which you're guessing, you're predicting, you're making complex judgments based upon very lousy information. You're so good at that because you have so much experience. And the brain is a master at that. It's substantially what it's constructed to be good at.
Driving the brain to change and expand the useful field of view is not about taking in more detail. It's about attending to important details and ignoring distracting elements.
Our perception is influenced by our attention, but there are two types of attention. One type of attention is our goal-directed attention, and that's what we're going to define as top-down. That's the attention that you choose, the focus of what your goals are in your mind. Then there's the other type of attention. That's the attention that's imposed upon us, the attention that comes driven into us by the environment. So for instance, if there's a loud noise or a flash of light, or even if someone calls your name, anything that's very important or very novel will command your attention even if it wasn't in your goals. So you constantly have this balance between your goal-directed attention, top-down, and bottom-up, which is being imposed upon you by the environment around you.
The intersection between top-down and bottom-up processing is directly tied to plasticity, influenced by the power of our focus and attention.
I'm a nature photographer, and part of what being a good nature photographer is training your bottom up to keep that sensitivity to the environment around you very vibrant. There's this photo we call reeds. It sort of looks like Asian writing, and what it really is are reeds reflected on the water. It was actually a very small part of this large, beautiful landscape that I redirected my focus to and was able to capture this picture. For me, the ability to step away from the big, overwhelming nature scene that was going on and to find a small part of the environment is really an example of this whole top-down, bottom-up. To be sensitive enough to the environment to still see this beautiful little aspect of it and capture that.
Top-down and bottom-up processing also change as we age. The ability to attend or suppress our attention intersects with our memory.
Most of our recent findings on aging is that the memory problems that we're seeing in the older adults, stem from attention problems, and not classic attention problems that they're not focusing on what they want to, but the flip side of attention, that they're not ignoring what they should.
Dr. Ghazali recently compared the abilities of young adults with older adults in terms of recalling relevant visual information amid irrelevant information. Using fMRI imaging technology, he discovered that the older adults didn't fail to remember visual information. They failed to ignore unnecessary information.
So our research participants are laying inside the MRI scanner. And while they lay there, we show them pictures, some of which they have to remember and some they have to ignore. So for instance, we'll show them 2 pictures of people's faces and 2 pictures of natural scenes. They'll have to remember the scenes and ignore the faces. Then we'll wait 9 seconds and show them a picture of a scene and ask if they remember it. What we find is how well they remember the scenes is directly related to how well they were ignoring the faces. However, older people have difficulty ignoring the information, and that seems to affect their ability to remember what's relevant.
Navigating sensory information is further complicated by noise. A sensory impulse in neuroscience parlance is considered a signal, the input that you are paying attention to. Noise is what gets in the way, whether through other sensory inputs distracting your attention or through degraded signals from diminished eyesight and deteriorated hearing.
Your signal is what's goal-directed, what you want to focus on, and it's surrounded by a massive amount of sensory noise. And your ability to create a very high signal-to-noise ratio is critical for all higher cognitive functions, such as memory, attention, language. And that balance seems to be affected in aging by an increase in the noise, or a decrease in the ability to suppress noise.
We can't control the quality of our hearing. Our hearing can deteriorate, but what we can do in our brain is get the most out of it. We can refine and sharpen our listening at any point in life to increase the accuracy of the information that we receive from listening.
In attempting to understand the challenges that confront us as we age, neuroscientists have devised a practical model that encapsulates the pitfalls. It demonstrates signal-to-noise difficulties, while at the same time shows the problems with establishing a balance between top-down and bottom-up processing.
There's something called the cocktail party effect. So when you're at a party, you're having a conversation with someone, and they're talking to you. They might not be the loudest voice in the room, right? There's a lot of other things going on, visual information, auditory information. All these things are pulling your attention away from your goals of having a conversation. So the signal is their voice, their face, their body language. And that's what you're trying to tune to. The noise is the vast majority of the information around you. So your ability to focus on your goals, that top-down, directed, driven focus that's essential for you to have that conversation, is balanced by suppressing that bottom-up information, the loud noises in the rooms, the drinks being pushed together, all the other sounds in the room that are pulling you away from your focus. And that's critical. If you can't do that, you would not have a very interactive conversation. It would definitely take a hit, and you would not be able to remember it as well.
When you were young, you would pretty much remember the faces of the individuals that you were with. You could come up and associate later with the names that are associated with the faces. You'd carry that away with you in a relatively vivid memory that endures for a substantial period of time. And now that you're 60, or you're 70, or you're 80, you have less and less ability to come up with that. You just can't remember it.
Improving the quality and quantity of the information we receive through our senses strengthens our brains and improves our ability to navigate the world. One of the most powerful tools for engaging our neuroplasticity is attention. Focused, results-driven attention can literally enlarge parts of our brain. The hippocampus, a small, centrally located, seahorse-shaped part of the brain, is where we synthesize sensory information and package it into memories.
The hippocampus seems to be very central to memories in general. And the reason for that is that its connections with the whole of the cortex. It's very deep in the brain. It has connections through the cortex right from the frontal through the parietal, down temporal regions, occipital regions. So